Good evening and welcome to World Online Racing, and we are back with the Ironman League. And as you know, we can't tell you the track as of yet until the lobby gets full. We're still waiting out on two drivers. It is a track pool system, but it is round 4, and the championship is starting to look a little bit closer in terms of the teams and the drivers, as well as those esports pros trying to claw the way back up from the bottom of the field. My name is Corey Brooks, one of your two commentators for this evening. Join with me in the booth. As you can see, first time here in this season, it's Max Ring. How are we doing, my friend?
Buddy, pleasure to be here for my first time here in the Ironman League. I'm very good, Corey, on this Sunday evening. How are you,
Uh,
Corey?
Very, very excited. Quite a stacked grid that we do actually have here for us tonight. We see a couple drivers have been replaced. So the graphic that I'm going to display is going to show 3 drivers that aren't actually here today. I don't seem to see an updated graphic, or if there was one, I've missed out on that one. But here you can see the starting grid right here.
Yes, so the grid, as of course on the graphic, is Balint Alikis from Diego Zorzo. That is your front row of the grid. Then it's Laurie Tulki and Andre Molnar, P3 and P4. And it's Benesabo Konyi in 5th. And then it will be Wilson Hughes instead of Gabor Santos. He's the only one we actually have worked out so far. He's in 6th, followed by West in 7th. Then it's Brendan Lee in P8, Luca Rapassa P9. Then Leo Lund, P10, rounding out your top 5 rows of the grid. Then in P11 and 12, it's Julian Klaffenbach and Ioni Tormala. P13 and P14, it is Jake Benham and Alvaro Caraton. P15 and 16, it is Ishmael Fassi and Pookie. Then it is Danny Berezno and Jarno Otmir, P17 and P18. And then rounding off the grid is Duncan Hoffland and Otis Lawrence. An absolutely stacked grid for this evening. And it should be a very, very interesting race indeed. I think we're waiting for one more in the lobby. But Corey, you have the standings, so why don't you take everyone through that after I did the pleasures of the grid?
Absolutely. I'm going to pull that right up on your screen. Now you can see Otis Lawrence leading the way. 50 points to his name so far. Seems to be the contender for the championship so far. As you've seen, winning in round 1. Round 2, losing out just about to Leo Lund. But then you see that disastrous race 3 that cost him 5 seconds, up to 9 seconds loss with that disconnect. But as we go through the order, Leo Lund lines himself up in 2nd, Rapassa's 3rd, Hoffland in 4th, Jarno Otmir in 5th, Brendan Lee 6th, Jack West, Danny Berezne, Nicholas Longier, reserve driver in 9th, and then Istvan Puka in 10th. But the Red Bulls still just about holding on to that lead of the championship, with the Alpine closing in, that being of Otis Lawrence, doing 50 of the 51 points given to the Alpine team. Aston Martin lining up in 3rd, the Scuderia Ferraris in 4th, VCARB in 5th, Sauber in 6th, the Williams in 7th, with Mercedes in 8th. McLaren and Haas not doing too well down there, levelling on points 9 and 10. But I think we are full on the grid, and I'm just going to pull up the track pool so you can all see, and we can get a little bit of a known of what is yet to come. You have seen Belgium, Abu Dhabi, and Saudi Arabia. You can cross those off. You could potentially see Bahrain, Texas, Hungary, Brazil, Mexico, Miami, Austria, China, Singapore, and Japan. So while we sit here so patiently and await to see what is to come on the track screen, I was looking at Australia, but I can tell you that it is not Australia. It's not available on the track pool. So we're waiting to find out where we're racing yet and still. And I still don't know, so I couldn't even tell you myself. It could be go anywhere. Who's stronger on what track of unknown? We do not know.
That is certainly the question. Of course, no practice. It can catch some drivers off guard. And if you're quite poor at a circuit and you're not really up to grips with it, or as a circuit you've not really played much on the game, that certainly could be a big devil's advocate, an Achilles heel into your race before it even begins. Of course, as well, if you're very strong at a track that many drivers have not done, exactly what you want. You really want to be up there. But of course, these drivers have done countless hours on each circuit trying to perfect the lines, especially the esports drivers. They'll want to just keep perfecting those lines. I mean, I've seen Duncan Hoffland do around about, 50, 60 hours at one point on the Netherlands alone. So it just shows how much, of course, the drivers want to put into those circuits, how much they feel comfortable around the tracks as well. So if it's a circuit which you're good at, you're going to be loving it. But if it's one where you maybe not done so many hours, maybe a day 1 setup, along the way in time trial as well, it certainly could be the case of you may be missing out on some crucial points for your championship challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. It could go down to the wire. It's all about how you can maintain your race pace as well. Don't forget, these are 100% GPs. So strategy is everything over the distance. Can you go long in your first stint? Maybe even try a longer end stint. The championship is up in anyone's hands at the minute. It's still early days. We're only going into round 4. Otis Lawrence is looking very strong and a likely competitor. Leo Lund, the underdog, may be clawing his way up the field, looking to impress from the academy side of things. But who's to say? It's still early doors, Max. We can't guarantee anybody, as we've had 3 different race winners. Nobody's been dominant so far, but one of the faster drivers is looking like Otis Lawrence.
Yeah, Otis has been really consistent. I mean, of course, it was brutally taken out of his hands from the disconnect last time out in Saudi Arabia. So he's certainly been the driver to really watch as Otis. He's been very much the man of consistency of the field. But as you say, no one can really be told as the real championship favourite just yet, as it's still such early days into the season. Anything can happen. This season can have Otis maybe even dominate the next 2 rounds and then not score for 2 rounds. It's something that can happen at a blink of an eye. And the track has just changed. We are heading to the Styrian Hills. We are going to be heading to Spielberg. 71 laps of action. And if we go off how Spielberg has been in previous titles, we should be in for an enthralling race and probably pit stops galore.
Absolutely. 4.318 kilometers long with 9 turns to go, 10 turns to go, sorry, and 3 DRS zones, if I'm not mistaken. So plenty of places to overtake, plenty of action to come your way. Austria certainly does open the door for a lot of action, but there you have it. We're on our way for 71 laps of an Austrian Grand Prix around the Red Bull Ring. I'm a Red Bull supporter, so hopefully the Red Bull boys can pull something out of the bag here, that being Jarno Opmeer and Luca Rapasso, charge up the field, score some much needed points and maintain that lead of the championship. But I've got to remain unbiased, being a commentator. But IRL, I do support Red Bull. I'm a Red Bull fan. I can see you there with your McLaren colours, Max, as well.
Yep.
So,
I think it's a bit obvious for me.
yeah, we do have that well and truly shown there. But we are getting ready. The drivers are fully readied up. The 30-second countdown timer has elapsed, and we are going into the Grand Prix. The grid is set, as you know, so no qualifying to come your way that you'd normally expect to see in any other sort of league racing scenario, but not here in the Ironman. 100%. Everything's preset between the pro esports drivers and the academy drivers. Bottom 10 for esports pros, top 10 in a reverse championship order, and that's how things are done here in the Ironman. But things are getting ready to spice up and heat up here as we've got 71 laps of the Red Bull Ring to go.
Of course, a long old race Ironman as well. Not your standard 50%. We go the full hundo. We do the full distance of each event. 71 laps of Spielberg. It may be a short lap, but it is still very grueling, and track limits could play a huge part of this evening's action. Of course, we have rain at the start of this race here in the Styrian Hills. It is going to be very interesting indeed. Of course, Spielberg, a circuit where you do expect some rain throughout the season. And now, as we're heading into this race, drivers be heading onto their setups, getting their cars fully equipped for the race ahead. Do you be stronger in these wetter conditions and potentially hemorrhage some time in the dry later on? Or do you focus on that endpoint? It's all about when you want to be gaining and losing that time. Strategy is going to be a big part of this evening's action. Being on the right tyre at the right time. And of course, 71 laps of Spielberg. It may seem short. It is certainly grueling. We're going to be in for an interesting race, especially a circuit with its
I think we are back live now. We are on camera screen just for a second. I've had a huge technical issue. I had to completely restart my entire computer, but I think we are back live. I'm just double checking to make sure. We should be back up. We are back up just for the time being. The game is currently booting and I'm trying to get myself back into the lobby. I do apologise to everybody. I've had a huge technical glitch.
Yep. It was just a full PC crash.
Yes, absolutely.
I did put it into the chat for you lovely people at home, so you know exactly what happened. and what was going on. It was just a huge crash. It's out of Corey's control. But we should be back with the action ever so shortly. So there'll probably be about 3-4 laps in if the race started on time. So as we get closer and getting back into the lobby, we should be underway with our stream, should I say, ever
Yes.
so shortly. But yeah, sorry about that, people. And of course, still luckily for us, it's not a 50% race where we've missed half the race. It is 71 full-on racing laps, so there's still plenty of action to go. But what drama has unfolded in those opening few laps? Have any of the drivers come to blows with one another? Quickly just joining into the session. Now they're on lap 5 of 71. So by the time we get into the lobby, hopefully everything will be just fine. But Corey, it has been hopefully a very eventful start, of course, being wet as well. And the PSGL F2 drivers, so the likes of Rapasa and Lund, have already done some racing around Austria this week in PSGL. That certainly could help them a lot.
Well, we have completely and utterly missed the race start, but we are finally trackside. I do apologise to everybody for that. I will get our details up so we can see what is going on at the minute. Joni Tormola leads the way. The rain has stopped, so it seems. I'm not seeing any rainfall on the track. However, the crossover conditions have not come yet. A couple of changes in the order there, but from the starting grid, it seems Berlin Elikas has lost out to Tom Roberts, who sits himself in the Ferrari now. It's another driver swap that we have seen that was a bit unexpected early on as a move there from Tommaso Kenny. Slips himself ahead of Diego Zorzo. They're fighting away as we get going on lap 6. It seems Tom Roberts has just ran away with this one a little bit as the track starts to dry out.
Yeah, he really has. So for Tom Roberts, it's been a beautiful start for the man in Scuderia Ferrari colours. Now Luca Rapasa squabbling away with Diego Zorzo. A lovely move there from the Red Bull to move himself up into third. The question is, do drivers come into the pit lane? It does seem like Tommaso Kenny is looking to do so. He went deep into the corner as well. He overshot the pit lane entrance, nearly went into the Red Bull of Luca Rapasa, and into the pit lane comes the Alpine. So many drivers now coming into the pit lane to switch off those intermediates, go to a slick tyre. Alekis, also Otis Lawrence as well, and Duncan Hoffland into the pit lane. So 4 cars in. The question is, where do they emerge on the road and what tyre do they go onto? Luca Rapasa 4 and 8 seconds behind Tom Roberts as we enter lap 7 of 71. And now Leo Lund's looking for a move on Diego Zorzo out of turn 3.
Does get that move done and dusted up into P3, provisional podium so far, but everybody is boxed behind. They've took a risk, again, they've took a chance. They're going to try and go early, but hopefully the crossover conditions are coming their way very quickly. They don't want to cost themselves too much time slipping and sliding over that wet surface as the rest of the drivers sit themselves on the intermediate tyres. There you can see from Tommaso Kenny all the way down to Julian Klappenbach, the bottom 5 being on hard compound tyres, looking to run a little bit longer now and extend a second stint. Intermediates done and dusted after 5 laps, 6 laps even, as we get going on to lap 7. We should see a couple more drivers get into the pits. We do. Tom Roberts, your race leader, as well as Luca Rapasa. That's the V car behind of Ben Sabaconye and Brendan Lee. Jake Benham as well following suit with Declan Barrett, Alvaro Caraton.
Yep. Leo Lund, of course, having to stay out after that one due to the fact his teammates did come into the pit lane of Tom Roberts. So for Lund, he has to do another grueling lap on those intermediates. Where does Tommaso Kenny come out in relation to the likes of Roberts and Rapasa? He's now heading down that main straight. Rapasa exiting out of the pit lane. And I think, actually, Kokeni has been jumped also by Sabo Konyi and also Brendan Lee. So it's disaster for the Alpine, who was battling for second place. And he's now fallen down to a net P4 or 5. So maybe staying out that extra lap has helped some of these drivers on the intermediates dearly. And for Tamash Kokeni, he has now got a lot of work on his hands. First up, 2-time esports champion Brendan Lee in the kick Sauber behind the V-carb of Benes Sabo Konyi. Of course, Luca Rapasa and Tom Roberts further up the road. And for Tom Roberts, he was able to keep a hold of that advantage when they came came out of the pit lane, and here come the flurry of cars, the rest of the herd to come into the pit lane and join the others onto a set of the slicks. You see them all just trundle into the pit lane now, a set from Joni Tormula, and that's it so far. So only Joni Tormula staying out on those intermediates and sets the fastest lap to go with it.
Well, on board with Tom Roberts as he dives back into what could potentially be the lead of the race. Jumps ahead of all the drivers that have gone a little bit longer on the intermediate compound tyre. That was a 3-second penalty there for Tomasco Kenny from behind. But Joni Tormula going 1 lap longer. Otis Lawrence now with the fastest lap of the race, showing that slicks are the fastest tyre. That track is well and truly dried out, and everybody should be looking at the slick tyres. There's DRS.
Yep, DRS now enabled. Slick tyres are definitely the ones you want to be on, and Leo Lund actually got the overcut on Luca Rapace. That overcut working quite nicely, and here's West versus Lee. This is over position. West just coming out the pit lane, trying to get those hards up to temperature. The kick Sauber on the inside, trying to fight back here. You can see from the front there's a little bit of contact between the pair, and Lee surely going to come out on top in this one as they head through turn 5. All West tries to scrap it into turn 6. No, the Aston Martin elects to sit behind and back into the wheel tracks of the kick Sauber. So Lee is able to move himself up into 7th, catching up to the back of Sabo Konyi, as well as Joni Tormula finally comes off those intermediates, stops the torment on those tyres. And Tom Roberts and Leo Lund, the Scuderia Ferrari outfit, prancing their way to the top 2 in these opening 10 laps.
Yeah, absolutely. Tom Roberts is flying out there. Feels very, very comfortable. Look at the lead he's got in that Scarlet Red Ferrari. 3 seconds over Leo Lund, his current teammate, running in the second Scarlet Red Ferrari. Leo Lund, if he can stick there in P2, he's going to pull back some much-needed points in the championship to claw back up to Otis Lawrence. Otis has done very, very well, though, so far. He's in 18th. He's staying exactly where he is out of... well, he started at the back of the grid, made up 2 positions, but if he doesn't score points, he's still going to be a little bit more comfortable, because Leo Lund, although he may make a late season charge or start of the season charge, Otis is one of the drivers that could potentially pull it back in the later rounds, under no pressure whatsoever. It is only round 4, don't forget, so maybe if Leo Lund did end up taking the lead off Tom Roberts and scoring those 25 points, I don't think Otis will be too worried.
No, of course, it's still a very long season ahead, so anything can still happen. And for Otis, he wouldn't really be too worried at this stage. If this was at the end of the season, battling for the title, that's where you start to potentially overdrive the car and really start to have that fear creep in that you're potentially losing one hand on that trophy and starting to slip away out of contention. But for Otis, it being round 4, it will not be the end of the world for his title campaign, but still, it is crucial points gone amiss. Here you see it's Benis Sabo Konyi on Diego Zorzo there, moving himself up into 4th place quite nicely. Started 5th, now up to 4th, and now West making that move on Brendan Lee, showing him the runoff there. And the kick Sauber, unfortunately, having to take to the escape road, and Jack West getting that position for P6 in that Aston Martin. And for Brendan Lee, he'll probably feel a little bit hard done by there, Corey, because he was really just forced off the road with nowhere to go.
Yeah, the little contact there with the Aston Martin, really pushing that front end out, saying get out of the way almost to Brendan Lee. He's just going to have to fall back in the order, but there's still 60 laps to go, so he's still got plenty of time to potentially make that back, as Joni Tormula, I think, has dropped a position there to Jarno Opmeer.
Yes, I think he certainly has. So Jarno Opmeer up into 16th place. Duncan Hoffland will be the next on his agenda if he is going to be looking forward, or will Joni try and fight back? Of course, Tormula got that big tyre delta to the field in front of him, stayed up the longest on those intermediates, and Jarno Opmeer certainly is flying up through the order. He's now set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. This track going to be getting quicker and quicker as the fuel burns down, the tyres rubber in, as Zorzo is able to get back past Sabo Konyi up into turn 3 as a move there as well. I think that's Jake Benham on Tamasco Benny, the McLaren driver, to the inside through turn 3. He's got the DRS on corner exit, but so does the Alpine, so it's a straight drag race between the pair. Heading down into turn 4, the Schwarzschild. Who's got the better grip? Who's got the better momentum? On the inside is Benham, outside is Kokeni, and that's invited Istvan Pukki, who says, thank you very much, I'll pick up the scraps. And now looking to the inside of Benham as well. Nearly a great move to the inside from the Mercedes man if he was able to pull that one off. But Benham just shuts the door in his face, and Kokeni loses 2 places in one corner. It's disaster for the Alpine man, as he's the only one with a penalty as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Kenny's going to lose massive time. Look how close this entire grid is. It's one huge DRS train. And as you can see, the laps are getting faster and faster. The fastest lap time now going to Duncan Hoffland was Zozo, but taken immediately by the Aston Martin driver, who's had to put a bit of a push on after feeling the pressure from Jan Otmar from behind, who's looking to be sizing up a move coming up on the Mercedes of Belen Elikas.
He certainly is. Hoffland, of course, navigating past the Mercedes.
There he goes. No,
look at
tucks back
Jarno
in.
to the inside. He looked for it. He's showing his nose. Barrett was able to get past Berezne as well. The V-Carb and the Haas squabbling. Zabzo Konyi getting past Diego Zorzo as well. But what's going to happen with this battle over 11th place is Berezne and the V-Carb on the inside of Declan Barrett. Of course, these two are going to be squabbling over to try and get who will get past Tamas Kokeni first. So, of course, the Alpine is falling backwards, so he's causing a little bit of a bottleneck behind him. And this is causing this squabble between Declan Barrett and Danny Berezne, and Alvaro Caraton will be looking to pick up some scraps of this battle. Of course, as we know, it's still a long old way to go, but track position is still very much key at this early stage of the race, because of course you can dictate what others may do in front or behind you, as Alekis now picks up a 3-second time penalty. So for both Kokeni and Alekis, they're struggling big time and they're falling back down the field.
Absolutely. All eyes on Alvaro Caratoni, who's very, very close to that V-Carb of Danny Berezne. But now with the DRS, Berezne burns a little bit of that battery to open the gap up and try and defend against what could be a lunge up into turn 3. But it's not to come for Caratoni. He sits behind Berezne, still getting very, very close to that diffuser, looking for some form of overtake, some form of opportunity to come his way, and it's just not to be as of yet.
It is certainly not just yet. You can see Jarno Otmar taking a little bit of a different line to everybody else. Just tucking out of the slipstream. Of course, engine temperatures on this game are a little bit more detrimental than we have seen on previous titles. Of course, if your engine gets too hot, you'll have no power down the straight. Jack West now putting some pressure on Diego Zorzo after getting past Brendan Lee, and could actually see his best form of attack from best form of defense from the kick salver behind the attack on Diego Zorzo. Of course, has been swapping places with Zabzo Konyi all race long, and they've dropped 3.6 seconds back from Luca Rapassa and Leo Lund out in front, who are both hunting down Tom Roberts at a rate of knots. So here we are then with the DRS open on Zorzo and also on West as well. Up into turn 3 we go. And look at that, the V-Carb just letting the Williams through. And there's Lee to the inside, returning the favour on Jack West on what we saw a few laps ago. West picks up a 3-second time penalty. They're still drag racing down the straight into turn 4. And also, Jack West may look for the move back to the inside and maybe give him his own elbows out. He goes to the inside of Brendan Lee, shows him the outside line, shows him the gravel. And Jake Benham now might actually get involved and pick up a position in the process. But unfortunately, not able to get the move done. And for Jack West and Brendan Lee, these two having a titanic scrap over 6th place in this Grand Prix. Lee returning the favour of what we saw West do a few laps ago, and West having none of it and going straight back to the inside, getting his elbows out into turn 4.
Yeah, absolutely. He was not happy with what Brendan Lee did, but I can't imagine Brendan Lee was happy with what Jack West did. But West certainly saying, not having that, mate, not a chance. Dives to that inside, but here comes Benham now on Brendan Lee with the DRS. Easy pickings up into turn 1, sends it round the right-hander. But look how close that two-time esports champion is. He's all over that rear diffuser of the McLaren. Is there another chance for him to come his way? No, he's not got the battery, and through goes Isvan Pukki. Lair on the brakes, dive to the inside line up into turn 3, picks up that move. I don't think Brendan Lee was deploying there, but Pukki saw that, took the opportune moment and said, okay, then I'll burn a bit of that battery. And while all that was going on, Jarno Otmar moves up on Bolin Elikas as well, sets sights on Duncan Hoffland, who's a couple of tenths up the road.
Otmar just following through Alekis, and it's Van Pukki catching Brendan Lee when his guard was down. And there to the inside was Joni Torminen now on Baden Alekis. To the inside through turn 6 for Joni. What a move that was from the Haas driver. Really opportunistic, and is actually, I think, the only driver on the medium compound of tyre. Everybody else running on the hards so far, and Joni Torminen staying out there a little bit later. It's actually going to that yellow walled mediums. Everyone says that the hard tyre is a better race tyre, and actually picks up a 3-second time penalty for his troubles. You can see the penalties are slowly starting to come in thick and fast And for Joni Tormela, he is the next victim of them. What is going on further up the field? Declan Barrett is getting close to the back of Tamas Kokeni. Savas Okonye able to get past Diego Zorzo. Is Barrett going to be able to get past the Alpine of Kokeni up into turn 3? To the inside he will go. Barrett getting the better drive on traction. He'll surely get this one done. And could he invite Danny Beresne through in the V-car? But no, Kokeni fighting back to the inside, being squeezed all the way to the grass. There's contact made. Kokeni slides across the road and still into Barrett even more. He's hold on to the position. Brilliant defense there from Tamaras Kokeni. I think Barrett was expecting him to maybe back out of that one. That's why the contact was made. But Kokeni showed his elbows, showed he was still ready to fight tooth and nail for it, and he stays in 10th place.
Absolutely, Kenny showing that now is not the time to lose position. Could this be down to strategy? We're only on lap 18. We've still got a colossus amount of laps to go. And the racing elbows are certainly out. People are getting aggressive. They're not letting their positions be taken with ease. They cannot afford to let the rivals implement whatever strategy they've got up in their mind. Danny Beresne looking for another open door on Barrett, but Barrett has just got that Haas as wide as he needs it to be. Further up the field, we see Diego Zorzo once again on Ben Savaconye. Slip on through. The DRS exchange is coming high and low as the fight ensues with Beresne and Declan Barrett. Beresne finally gets on through.
Yep, he certainly does. He's finally able to break down that wall that Declan Barrett was putting up. Of course, was trying to use Kokeni getting a car in between him to keep Beresne at bay. Wasn't able to do so, as we now see Duncan Hoffland all over the back of Alvaro Carreton. Is he going to be able to get past the Williams man, who is now the next on the list of the Declan Barrett wall? The moving chicane at the moment is Declan Barrett trying to keep everybody behind him. He's had a big slide through turn 6 as well. So for that Haas, he's going to come under a lot of pressure. That squabble also with Kokeni dropped them out, this train of cars outside the DRS of Brendan Lee. So a lot of work needs to be put into the Alpine's hands. And now for Duncan Hoffland, he's got that DRS, but he's also got to keep his wits about him, because behind him is Jarno Otmir, who will pounce at any given opportunity, as Kleffenbach now picks up a 3-second time penalty. So Hoffland needs to get this move done flawlessly, or he could see him fall behind Jarno Otmir. And there's Benham getting past West. A nice DRS move there. And the same once again between Zorzo and Konyi, as Beresne is past Kokeni. And to the inside there as well, I think, was Hoffland looking for the move on Carreton. Wasn't able to get it done, but now under abundance of pressure from Otmir.
Here comes Jarno Otmir. He's in that slipstream. He's looking for a move. We get going down. Look at that, to the left and back to the right. Dives to the inside line. Almost gets a foot in the door. Still side by side with Duncan Hoffland. And Jarno Otmir's looking for it the long way around. Can he take it around the outside? He's certainly going to go for it. He's still keeping that Red Bull well and truly in the door. Duncan Hoffland's trying to stop him from taking it, but all elbows are out. And the pressure is certainly on Duncan Hoffland, but he's doing very, very well to defend it. They kept it side by side for 3 corners, but I think Hoffland's done just enough to keep Jarno Otmir behind for one more lap.
He certainly has. That's how you slam the door into Otmir's face, is that you just keep it pinned, you keep the confidence, and you show him what you're made of. Brilliant battling between the two Dutch drivers as we now head up into turn 1 for the 20th time in this Grand Prix. And all that squabbling has actually potentially put Otmir under pressure from Joni Tormela behind. But Otmir is now going for the move once again on Declan Hoffland into turn 3. Is he going to be able to get the move done? No, he's focusing on the exit. A little tap from the Haas behind. And once again, Otmir now going to use that battery, use that DRS. Is he going to do the dummy again? Is he just going to stick to the outside line this time around as we head into the Swash Gold once more? And this time on the brakes, Jarno Otmir is able to break through on the Aston Martin, and he is up into 14th place. It was a brilliant defensive triumph so far for Declan Hoffland, but unfortunately did come to an end as Otmir, with that pace, with that battery advantage, just saw himself by. And now Joni Tormela sees himself looming large in the mirrors of Duncan Hoffland ahead.
Yeah, Joni Tormela in the hat. Can he make what has been a bit of an unsettled Duncan Hoffland under huge, tremendous pressure from 3-time F1 Esports champion Jarno Otmir? Joni Tormela's closing in, but it's not enough to potentially put a move on into turn 1, or, depending on the exit out of turn 1, could put a move on up towards turn 3. Oh, he's close. But he's got Otis Lawrence on his neck. Oh my God, look at the speed from that Alpine.
He's getting really close. Is Otis Lawrence, of course, the man leading the championship. He's got to look to the inside of Joni Tomala. Here we go. Then the Alpine making that move. You thought Tomala was going to put that pressure on Duncan Hoffman, but it's actually being put on him by Otis Lawrence. The Alpine looking to try and break through against the Haas to the inside. Goes Otis Lawrence into the swash goal. Is he going to be able to get this one done? And Joni forces him into the gravel. A little twitch at the rear end from the Haas man. And the Alpine is through. Otis Lawrence up into 16th. Wouldn't be thinking so far that this has been the greatest of performances and really would be looking to push a lot further up the order, will Otis, and that's exactly how you would want to kickstart it. A move like that, robust, aggressive, hard but fair, and that's exactly how you get a move done. Clean but hard, and really just looking to now put that pressure on Duncan Hoffman, which Joni Tomala tried, just wasn't able to do.
Things are certainly starting to spice up a little bit. Drivers looking to try and take track positions now, as we've still got under 40 laps to go, just under 50 laps to go of this Grand Prix. Danny Beresne looking for it on Tomasco. Kenny slips on through with that DRS. It's nice and easy done, but he's still 1.8 seconds behind Brendan Lee. Any hopes of a DRS move on that Kick-Sauber, he's going to have to work a little bit harder for that one. Looking further down, we sort of have two races running at the moment, but Tom Roberts has been caught by Leo Lund and Luca Rapassa, so it is the podium sitters fighting it out now, tooth and nail, one against each other.
Yep, Tom Roberts, Leo Lund, Luca Rapassa, the top three in this race. Roberts had a 4-second advantage, but Lund and Rapassa have been slowly and steadily eating their way into it. Roberts needs, of course, and Lund will probably give each other a little bit more space than they would Rapassa, because, of course, they are teammates in the Scuderia Ferrari stable house, and Joni Tomala picking up a 3-second time penalty. That's his second of the race, so he's up to 6 seconds now in that Haas. But for Leo Lund, he's not close enough to get any sort of advantage, any sort of move going on Tom Roberts. I think these three are going to stay as they are, as Zabzo Konyi is actually now going to be squabbling with Jake Benham over 4th place on the road. They brought that gap down by about a second on Luca Rapassa in front. I think Luca might be trying to get some moves done on Leo Lund in the process, and look at that, Benham just switching straight back through. They need to use this, for Benham and Konyi. They need to keep swapping these places. It's what they need to do if they want to be able to catch up to that top three. Use the DRS to their advantage. Swap every straight, maybe not the first straight, but at least down, up into turn 3 and down into turn 4. It's really the only way they're going to find their way back into this, because they are needing a miracle at the moment with 3.1 seconds around Austria with a bunch of DRS zones. London Rapassa will just keep pulling away each straight.
Yeah, absolutely. Jake Benham, though, 3 seconds. He needs to try and claw back to have a chance or a little bit of a sniff at the podium positions, but with the front three just ever DRSing away, Benham's not really gaining too much. Still sat there around 2.9 as Leo Lund now challenges his teammate into the lead. The Ferraris know that they're under tremendous pressure from Rapassa behind. If Rapassa gets into the mix and separates the Scarlet Red Ferraris, their chances of DRSing each other and maintaining this defensive posture for a 1-2 could go well and truly out of the window.
It certainly could. I mean, anything could still happen. We still have a long old way in this race to go, and anything really could still play a part. We could get a safety car, or just maybe a mistake from one of these drivers. A 3 seconds penalty near the end of the race could see them drop out of contention if the rest of the pack do catch up. It is still a long old race ahead. It's not a sprint, it is going to be a marathon, and these drivers will need to keep their heads down, need to keep their concentration, because 71 laps does take a lot of mental fatigue. It does take a lot of mental strength to get it perfect after perfect each lap that ticks by. And the more you start to lose that concentration, like Joni Tomala with the 3 second time penalty again, that's up to 9 seconds now for the Haas. You slowly start to see yourself picking up those warnings, making those mistakes. And that's exactly what this top three can't afford as Benham. That gap is going to be sitting around 3.2 seconds as Sabso Konyi not able to get close enough to get the moves. And Kokeni now getting that move done on Danny Beresne. Another swap position there, and they've really fallen off the back of Brendan Lee over the past few laps as well.
Yeah, absolutely. 2.5 seconds separating them from that Kick-Sauber of Brendan Lee. There's a lot of work cut out for a lot of drivers if they want to claw themselves back through the order. But just a huge train now going from P10 all the way down to P19. 9 drivers just stuck in this long train, nobody able to overtake, nobody able to slip on through, apart from Korkenny and Berezny, who just keep swapping positions.
Yeah, Kokeni and Berezne trying their best to get back within the DRS of Brendan Lee. It's kind of like we got to see with the Benham and Sabsho Konyi train there. They've really got to try and work together as best as they can. They may be rivals, but of course when it comes to situations like this, you want to work together to catch up to the pack in front. Jana Otmir now all over the back of Declan Barrett. A nice run out of turn one for the Red Bull. A slippery run out of turn one for the Haas. It was a huge moment for Barrett, and Otmir will see himself through. Thank you very much, says the Dutchman. And I'll move up into 13th place as Berezne with another swap on Tamas Kokeni. Jana Otmir will now be looking at Alvaro Caraton and maybe trying to get to the front of this train to help with that cause of catching up to Brendan Lee. It's now 3.1 seconds as Leo Lund's actually overtaken Tom Roberts into the Swash Gold. So there's been a swap for the lead, and it has been between the two Scarlet Red Ferraris. Leo Lund has made it in to the front of the field. Roberts, he led for so long, and I think at this point he's just going to be hemorrhaging too much time. I think Rapassa will get by him ever so shortly once Lund drops him out of DRS, or do the Ferraris work together and Lund just keeps him on the fringes?
And it seems that the Ferraris are sort of working together. You can see Rapassa moving out of that hot air, trying to keep that engine cool. As you know, you will lose engine performance. Ben Savaconye still 3 seconds from behind and just keep swapping with the Jake Benham in DRS, trying to gain back some tenths and hopefully break into that 1 second of Rapassa. And then, of course, you have that huge DRS train from Berezne all the way down to Balint Elikas. And it's just everybody running long now, running as far as they can on this hard compounder tyre, which we should ultimately see a set of pit stops coming around lap 40, I should think, around 45 for mediums. Potentially see drivers go for what could be the blinder, the strategy masterclass. We started on wet conditions, intermediates, for around 6-7 laps, and it's been dry ever since. Do we see another wet stint on the way? That's the question. Maybe this is why they've gone hard, so the rain could still come.
Could be that, or it could just be for a strong finish at the end, getting onto those mediums of the course. A two-stop, I would think, is really the way to go on the slick compounder tyres. These hards will start to complain over the course of the next few laps. Denny Berezne now picks up a 3-second time penalty. That adds to his troubles trying to catch up to Brendan Lee in that train of cars from 10th place downwards all the way to Baden Aleckis. And then Julian Kleffenbach, who's dropped down 23 seconds from the rest of the field. Feel very sorry for the Kick-Sauber man as there's Benham getting past Konyi once more. Heading up into turn 3, and actually a move there from Mitz Van Pookie on Diego Sorso. I think he might have overshot the corner. Yes, he has. Pookie overshotting the corner. And there's Jack West trying to capitalise on it. He's trying to move himself back up into 7th place, but not able to do so. Wasn't able to get the run out of the corner. Diego Zorzo with some brilliant defending there, just causing Pookie to go that little bit deep. That puts some pressure off of his shoulders for the next few laps, you would think. And he needs to keep trying to stay within that DRS of his own on Konyi in front. Because if Zorzo drops out of that, we'll have another mini train of cars. It'll be Konyi and also Benham just trying to push on to the front of the field by themselves. But I have brought that gap down by half a second here, Corey. They are slowly making inroads, so something that they're doing is certainly working.
Yeah, absolutely. I have just taken a quick little look at the weather, what it's supposed to be. It's into, dry, into, so we still have a wet stint yet to come. We're getting going on tour 29 now. Still a lot of racing laps to go. 42 laps if you want to count them down. And we still have a wet stint on the way. So they're just trying to extend the hards, apart from Brendan Lee, who's chose to go into the pits and come out on the medium compounder tyre. Now that's brave, because when is the weather going to start to play a factor? I mean, is he going to gain what he's lost in the pits? I don't think he will.
I'm not sure. I mean, it's not looking very overcast right now, and I mean, it is worth a gamble if he wants to go for it, because of course those hards would have been screaming in agony. They will be pretty much on their deathbed. Something's happened to Otis Lawrence as he's falling down the order. What's happened to the Alpine man? Of course, his debut in the Alpine colours, should we say. And as he's heading through the left-hander, I don't know if anything's strictly wrong with the car. Maybe just locked up or got tapped round by somebody, and unfortunately has dropped to the back of this order. So down to 18th place. after what was, I think, at one point 15th, as Berezne and Kokeni swap once more. Barrett pick up a 3-second time penalty. Many 3-second time penalties coming in right then. Tormina getting one. Berezne retiring from the race. I think Berezne there, Corey, might have sped into the pit lane, and that's ruined his race entirely, and has potentially cost the drivers scrapping away to try and get into that top 8 and try to catch up to that train. As there's Alvaro Caraton getting past Tamash Kokeni, and Lawrence picking up a 3-second time penalty to add to his troubles.
Oh, yeah, I know what, may have had a beautiful run as well, looking to capitalise on that battle that went on with the Alpine and the Williams ahead. Yeah, I know what, may looking for a move potentially coming his way. No, he falls back to the racing line, maybe has an open door around the outside, not to come his way as we get around turn 5, but now as we come around the double left-hander of 6 and 7, drops back away and doesn't want to risk any unnecessary contact.
No, certainly does not. Unnecessary contact will ruin your whole race. Yes, it's 71 laps, but picking up some front wing damage, it can set you off the back of the field by quite some margin. And actually, the Dutchman, I thought he was going to maybe come into the pit lane, potentially just trying to bring others in, trying to bait them, trying to be just fish them into the pit lane and then catch them hook, line and sinker. Be like, thank you very much. That puts you off the back of me, as Tamash Kokeni actually now lets Jarno Opmeer through, and he's actually disconnected, I think, Tamash Kokeni from this session. So unfortunate there for the Alpine. So for Alpine, it goes from bad to worse. And for Tamash Kokeni, that disconnect is going to hurt him dearly. So Opmeer now going to have to try and use that DRS to get closer to the back of Alvaro Caraton. Benham and Konyi have brought that gap down to 2.1 seconds out in front. And actually, Diego Zorzo is still just holding tight with them. And Sabio Konyi is 3/10 behind Benham. They're really bringing that gap down to the leaders here. But the question is, will they bring it down enough by the time the wet stint comes around, which I think they could if it delays it a little bit longer, that they're going to be able to be opportunistic, be able to capitalise on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, there's Johnny Tormola all over the place coming towards turn 8, really cutting over the apex there, the squabbling coming out of turn 7, but able to keep the car under control. Didn't lose out too much time either. But we see some drivers have gone into the pits. So Johnny Tormola, those hards are not doing him any favours. He's all over the track right now. That's another 3-second penalty to add to his time. But looking over the field, they've ran for over 20 laps now, 23 laps for some drivers on these hard compounded tyres. They were hoping the wet weather to come. Brendan Lee has gained some ground, quite a lot of ground, I should say, as he's 4 seconds away from Otis Lawrence, who's 3 seconds off the back of Belen Elikas after his little moment, his disastrous moment in the Alpine. But I don't know, is it optimal to box knowing that there could potentially be wet weather on the way? The hards are going the distance, but the rain is just yet to come.
Yeah, the clouds aren't really covering the circuit either. And I mean, Brendan Lee has brought that gap down to 3.7 seconds over Otis Lawrence. A few laps ago, it was 8. So it shows those fresh mediums really do work. Bain at the league, Alekis has left the session as well. I think it's another disconnect we have just seen, unfortunately. Is anyone else going to dart into the pit lane? No, they are not. So for Brendan Lee, he is still the sole runner really here that has come into pit lane, that's in a competitive position. Jake Benham has brought that gap down to 1.4. They are catching at a rate of knots here. Benham, Konyi, Zorzo, Pookie, Otis Lawrence has retired. Your championship leader, crucially, is out of the race, while his championship rival Leo Lund leads the way. So for Lawrence, his debut for Alpine could not go any worse. 10 seconds speeding into the pit lane. He's had enough. And that's it, unfortunately, for Otis Lawrence. His debut has not gone to plan. And here in the Ironman League, he has retired from the race. So a big opportunity here now, Corey, for Leo Lund to score some big points and slice that championship lead down.
Absolutely. In terms of the drivers, Leo Lund could really do with this victory here, as he's still leading the way on lap 33. But for the Red Bulls, this is massive in constructors. You've got Luca Rapassa crucially on the podium and Jarno Opmeer in the back end of the points, just 7/10 away from Alvaro Caraton. But then that 4-second gap is going to seem like lightwood to Jarno Opmeer. We've still got wet weather to come. I don't know, I'm not seeing so much sun anymore. I'm starting to see a little bit of a grey in the background there. I'm not sure if you're seeing that, Max, as the run down towards turn 1 could be coming over.
It certainly could. It really is going to be all about when that rain does come. If you box like Brendan Lee at the wrong time, of course Brendan Lee has boxed quite early, so he's not really going to be hindered too much by it. But if someone like your Jake Benham, like your Zorzo, goes for an undercut and then it starts raining as soon as you exit out the pit lane, you've just made an unnecessary pit stop. Kokeni sets the fastest up of the race on the soft compound of tyres. How long till that rain does well and truly come? It's still not getting too overcast just yet. It's still quite sunny over those Styrian hills. They are rolling in though, the clouds, but not so much just yet. So Benham, crucially now within DRS range, that middle sector, he has been absolutely flying. And that's where he really gains the time. He's just so committed through the middle and final sectors that Rapassa, Robertson, Lund stand no chance against him. And he's now, as you can see, got that rear wing flap open. Jake Benham is now in play, everybody. And that gap at the front is now the top 8, wobbling it out for the on-track race leads.
Absolutely. Benham done everything that he could to break it down. What was 10 laps ago, a 3-second gap. He's now 6/10, and they're all back within DRS looking to scrap it away. This is crucial, especially if that weather is on the way. They couldn't risk being too far behind. When that DRS eventually gets closed off and disabled, nobody can use it, and they're still outside of seconds, but now they can close that gap up, and if the weather is to come, they are well and truly in the fight for the podium spots.
Yep, they certainly are. So now this is where being on the right tyre at the right time when that weather comes into play is going to be so crucial, as you see Tamas Kokeni get past Julian Kleffenbach. But really now it's all going to be about when that rain comes. Or does Benham go on the offensive straight away to get that track position? That is the question for the McLaren driver to answer a little bit later down the line. The top 8 all in contention. Alvaro Caraton 4.7 seconds back. He's carrying Jarno Opmeer along with him, and something's happened to Declan Barrett as he's going quite slowly around the circuit. He did bring out a yellow flag, so I don't know if he was maybe had a moment on the exit of turn 8. Him and also Duncan Hoffland have come into the pit lane, and Declan Barrett has also retired. So we've had our 3rd casualty from this evening's action on lap 36.71. Just hit half distance. And unfortunately for Declan Barrett, Otis Lawrence and Danny Perez, they will not see the checkered flag this evening.
No, absolutely not. Just a couple of disaster races for them here in round 4 of the Ironman League. Otis Lawrence being the biggest loser, right, being the championship leader. It could open the door for Leo Lund to take that lead away. He's on 33 points, plus 25 have put him on 58 versus Otis Lawrence, 50 points. So Leo Lund could take lead of the championship standing here. He's maintaining that P1, but let's not count out that charge from the McLaren of Jake Benham from behind. There's allowed Ben Sabaconye, Diego Zorzor, Istvan Phuket and Jack West all back in DRS and potential contenders for those podium positions.
Yep, they certainly are. And really, around a circuit like this, but especially in that middle sector where Benham has been so strong, that dirty air effect you now feel on this game, contrary to F1 24 where there wasn't really much of it, it is so lethal, especially through turn 6 and 7. The understeer, the sliding of the front tyres, you feel it just does not grip up well at all. And that's where Benham has been really, really strong, that middle sector where he's found all that time. And it's going to hinder him now because of being in that dirty air, he's not going to have as much performance as he once had. As you can see how grey those clouds are. That's starting to roll in around the top of the circuit. So certainly rain is on the way, probably within the next 10 to 15 minutes as Brendan Lee now gets past Joni Tormala. He's caught up to the back of that train and is now starting to put some pressure on Wilson Hughes. And Alvaro Caraton and Jarno Opmeer are now in a duo of their own. So they're really trying to catch up to Jack West in front, but a hemorrhaging time at second by second. So for Brendan Lee, as he now puts the pressure on Wilson Hughes, that tyre delta is going to be absolutely massive at this stage of proceedings. And you can now see Wilson Hughes into turn 9. He's going to be under a lot of pressure into turn 1. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a straightforward move up the hill to that first corner.
Yeah, it'd be easy done. It looks like it's a beautiful strategy for Brendan Lee's game back all that time. The wet weather still hasn't come yet, so boxing for the mediums there and then was the better call for the Kick-Sauber. He's gained back massive time. Look at this beautiful overspeed coming out of turn 1. Just has the tyre grip and the advantage, able to get the traction down a lot better and just power up that hill towards turn 3. And, well, we'll see what sort of gap he can bridge now as we get going down into Sector 2. As he comes around turn 5 and gets going for turn 6 and 7, this is where we'll see the most advantage. You'll be able to flick it around the double left-hander and not lose out too much time.
Yeah, this is where those mediums will be put into good use. Are turns 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, that final part of the circuit is really where it's going to be where those tyres do come into play. You get so much more purchase, so much more grip from those fresher medium tyres compared to those really old 20 lap olds at this, no, 30 lap olds, sorry, at this rate, hards. And they're really going to be starting to feel the pain. I think these drivers are really just going to be holding out for that rain. As that battle up at the front, Roberts is actually, even ever since Lund got in front, Tom Roberts has really been holding well with his teammate. He's not been eaten up like by Luca Rapassa like I thought he would. And the Red Bull man has had to just sit behind him for now. Duncan Hoffland on some fresh hards now set the fastest lap of this Grand Prix. As we now got the DRS open for the top 8 as they head down into the Swash Gold for the 39th time in this 71 lap Grand Prix. And once again, there you see Chabot Conyi just having to sit behind once more. Roberts in front is really hanging on to the back of Lund. I wouldn't be surprised actually here, Corey, if we see a swap between the two prancing horses within the next few laps or so, because Roberts, I think he's actually really starting to be held up at times by Lund, especially down those DRS straights, and it can help them to pull away from Rapassa behind.
Oh, Valant Elikas has managed to get back in the Grand Prix, being 23 seconds behind Julian Clapham-Bock. His race is a little bit over at this point, but he's well and truly got himself back into the lobby. Don't know what's happened on his side, but welcome back, and hopefully you can pull back some time under strategy. We still have wet to go, but there you can see how close Tom Roberts is getting to the back of his teammate Leo Lund. And I think you're absolutely right, Max. I think he is being completely withheld of Leo Lund, especially the likes of turn 1, and as we get going through 5, 6, and 7.
Yeah, it gets really close, does Roberts, and it's actually affecting because Rapassa could make that lunge. Excuse me, at any given moment. So for Lund, I think they've really got to start thinking about swapping these drivers. Maybe do what we saw Benham and Conyi do down some of the straights when they were trying to catch up. Just swap him each lap. Just make sure you don't back the other one up into Rapassa behind and be somewhat of a rolling roadblock for your own teammate. And that could then put them under a lot of pressure. So if they do that and work it out effectively, so if Roberts gets by through turn 2 as Alecki's now retires from the session, the Ferrari could really work this one out well if they just let the other one through at the right time to stop Rapassa from steaming by.
Absolutely, and I don't know if you've noticed, Max, but that is getting mighty dark though coming through that final sector. Maybe the wind and rain is on its way over from that back end of the track rather than the front end of the track. It's getting darker, the clouds are starting to come, so could we see wet weather on the way? Those that have been able to extend this hard stint all the way through. There goes Tom Roberts, he's making the lunge now. Maybe this is what he needed for, he was waiting for those clouds to come. Now he's going to go full push and challenge his teammate, but Leo Lund's had a beautiful run out of turn 3 on that outside line and does slip back on through with the DRS. Easy pickings. Luca Rapassa could be looking at sizing up a move now, looking for an opportunistic open door as the Scarlet Prancing Ponies fight away.
They certainly do, as Brendan Lee's able to get past Jarno Opmeer into turn 4 of the Swatch Gold, and now he's got Alvaro Carreton in front. That wasn't really what I was saying about letting the other driver through, but it worked to keep Rapassa at bay, so London Roberts didn't lose too much time in all of that, but that would have been a very scary moment for the pair of them, especially on the exit of turn 3 there. Lund was nearly off the road and over that sausage curve. That could have cost him dearly. But luckily from the pair of them, it was hard but fair racing. And the clouds have certainly darkened. I did say around about lap 35, it could be around about 10-15 minutes away. I think my prediction could be quite correct. And for these drivers, they'll have to now navigate a new challenge. A new foe has appeared once again, and it is good old rain. It's all about being on that right tyre at the right time, like you saw in the real-life Grand Prix at Silverstone. It's all about being on the slick or being on the intermediate when you need to do so. And for Leo London, Tom Roberts, it's actually kind of disaster for them, because that right lap is whoever's going to be in front is going to get the priority, and maybe Roberts might be drowning in the rain and potentially lose out on some crucial places.
Absolutely. It wouldn't surprise me to see them go for the double stack. It'll probably be a lot faster than running one more lap in wet conditions, depending how slippy and greasy that tarmac becomes. You know, we've seen how quickly it can go from having the grip to having absolutely none in the space of a corner, depending on how bad that rain starts to fall. But again, Leo Lund, he's maintaining that position. He's pulled away 7/10 on his Ferrari teammate, so maybe he's really trying to push and pull away before it starts to drop and drizzle with rain.
Well, course, Lund stayed out that lap longer than Tom Roberts. So for Roberts, he's going to be maybe hitting that cliff on those tyres just one lap earlier than we see for Leo Lund. And that could be a little bit of a reason why we see a bit of a pace loss. And as well, with that dirty air, it is getting darker and darker, more and more gloomy over this Red Bull Ring here in Spielberg. As they head down the hill once more into turn 4, it is still Lund from Roberts, from Rapassa, from Benham, from Conyi, Zorzo, Pookie, West, Lee and Caraton are your top 10 for Leo Lund and Tom Roberts. This has been absolute dreamland so far for Ferrari, but now with the changeable conditions coming their way, it could go from a dream to a nightmare oh so quickly. As Roberts is actually in. Roberts into the pit lane. So is he going for an early switch to the intermediates? And Rapassa follows. Rapassa follows him in, but there's still no sign of rain yet.
It is. It's spitting. It's ever so slightly spitting down pit lane. I can see it ever so slightly. Leo Lund may be on the better strategy here, going one lap later. No, there's no crossover yet. It's not raining heavily. It's not raining a lot. Those intermediate tyres are going to burn rapidly until it starts to fall. This could be for Leo Lund to take here. Not only that, don't count out Jake Benham. It's all to see when these drivers choose to box. It's starting to rain a little bit heavier. It's starting to drop a little bit more now, but that track is still well and truly dry.
It certainly is. I just couldn't see those spots of rain falling down onto the car. It was very, very far and few in between. And now you can see Lund really struggling with rear traction, as now you see Rapassa actually jump Roberts in the pit lane. So something must have happened to Roberts, as Rapassa has jumped him. So for the Red Bull, he has seen himself move up into 12th place and a net P2 in this one. Or could it be a net race lead if Leo Lund does come into the pit lane? And it has been a very poor in-lap. No, he stays out for another lap, but you can see the rain. You can see it falling on the circuit, and he elects to come in. He comes into the pit lane. Leo Lund, it has started tipping it down over the circuit here in Spielberg. The heavens have well and truly opened, and have the heavens given an angel to Luca Rapassa.
Hold on, Jarno stayed out. Jarno's trying to pull off strategy masterclass. He's going one more lap.
It's worth the gamble for Jarno, but the question is it too wet? I think it might be. So for Jarno Opmeer, it's worth the risk. It's worth the gamble staying one lap out. And there's your answer. DRS is disabled. Caraton retires in the pit lane. He put on the softs by accident. It was not the intermediates to be for him. So that's another casualty from this race. And Jarno Opmeer, the daring Dutchman, staying out longer than everybody else. But I don't think it was the right decision. He threw all these dice. He threw all these cards on the tables. He cashed in these chips. But unfortunately, he has not hit the jackpot, and he's gone bankrupt, because that time between him and Leo Lund now, especially through that middle sector, is going to hemorrhage massively. And Tom Roberts is actually in the scrap now with Jake Benham. So for Lund, he was able to get out just in front of Rapassa, and Roberts now has to slot in between, behind the Red Bull of Rapassa. As you can see through there with Jarno Opmeer, the struggles he is having keeping that car on the road. And for the Dutchman, it is utter despair for him, as he's now surely going to come into the pit lane this time around for some intermediates.
He's trying to get it rotated around turn 9, but just couldn't. You saw the understeer. He's slipping and sliding down pit lane, desperately trying to get there, slams on the brakes as early as possible, does very well not to pick up any sort of speeding in the pit lane infringement, tried to go one lap longer, but Jarno could lose more positions than he was able to keep.
He certainly could, and for Opmeer, it certainly was a gamble. It was a very big roll of the dice. And unfortunately, they've come up with a pair of ones, not a pair of sixes, for his adventures on lap 45. And yeah, he's dropped behind Turmoil. He's going to surely drop behind Wilson Hughes and corner exit of turn 1, and potentially Hoffland as well. No, he's actually going to be tucked up behind Wilson Hughes up into turn 3. You don't want to make this man angry. He will find his way back through. Of course, there's still the dry stint to come, so could we see another strategic opportunity come Jarno Opmeer's way as he makes it up into P3? He's passed Wilson Hughes, but the McLaren will not take this one lying down. He will still squabble for position, and it does seem now as well to see Corey. Tom Roberts is starting to struggle. He's dropped a second behind Jake Benham, and actually Shabsho Konyi as well. He's dropped 3.4 seconds behind Jake Benham, so something really wrong with that RB over the past few laps.
So I'm looking on board of Tom Roberts, just trying to see if he's slipping and sliding. Is there a setup difference here? You know, with the intermediate conditions, you know that you are going to get wet weather in the Ironman League. So you have to sort of build a setup that balances both dry and wet. Now, you're asking a lot of the car there. You can either put too much load on the tyres under dry or not enough downforce in the wet. So it could be a strategic masterclass here for Luca Rapassa and Leo Lund, who seem to be gaining time on Tom Roberts there in the front two, whereas Tom Roberts looks so good off the race start, leading with his teammate Leo Lund for quite a while.
Leo Lund doing really well at the moment, and Tom Roberts was doing quite well as well in, as you say, in those wheel tracks. But now, of course, in these intermediate conditions, I do think he has gone for a more dry setup. Of course, we had that longer stint in those dry stages, and now, of course, we are going to go back to dry ever so soon, and that rain will clear up. Duncan Hoffman now going for a move on Wilson Hughes. The Aston Martin versus the McLaren. This was on at 12th place on the road, and look at that to the inside. That's a late lunge if you've ever seen one before, and the Aston Martin with a spectacular lunge to the inside, and Hoffman moved himself up into 12th place. So he's next trying to hunt down Jarno Opmeer, who's just a further 1.1 seconds up the road. The big godsend here from Tom Roberts is the fact, even though he's dropping time and he's 2.1 seconds behind Luca Rapassa, now he's dropped about a second over the course of this past lap. Jake Benham's not got any DRS. So he's not able to get the moves done on the straights. And if Roberts parks his car where he needs to, like he can into turn 3, if Benham ever gets close enough, he can just stay in front of the McLaren man and he can stay in 3rd place. So for Roberts, it's not doom and gloom just yet. But of course, if Benham is able to get by, and if DRS does get enabled while they're still on the intermediates, and Roberts is still this far off the back of Rapassa and Lund, he certainly could be a sitting duck for the McLaren. So for Benham, it's been a very good drive so far, as West and Lee are squabbling over position. I think West has just got by the Kick Sauber, and he certainly has, and Lee is hemorrhaging time massively. That gap now 1.5 seconds after West just overtaking him.
I wonder if Brendan Lee again has gone for a more dry setup over the wet condition setup, where we saw the drop off in the wet, saw him excel in the dry, especially when he boxed onto those medium compound tyres. But now, as the rain starts to fall again, the car starts to drop off once more. So again, you've got to really balance your setup and judge it correctly in the Ironman League with these ever-changing conditions, or just stick it out and try your best on a dry setup. But looking ahead, it looks like Luca Rapassa and Leo Lund have done everything they needed to in terms of setup to really excel over this field. 2.2 seconds now clear of Jake Benham. Oh, sorry, of Tom Roberts.
Of course, so we've seen Benham be this far back before when it switched to dries. He still managed to claw his way back to the front. He will drive hammer and fist. He will literally put his foot to the floor and just go when we reach those dry conditions once again. It will hopefully bring Tom Roberts along with him to do that swapperoo strategy he was doing with Konyi all those laps ago. Now, as we enter about to end lap 49 and enter lap 50, we really are getting to crunch time in this race. It'll be 21 laps to go when we cross the line. It's getting closer and closer to this finish. We've had a total of 5 casualties. It's Caraton, Alekis, Barrett, Otis Lawrence, and Danny Beresnay. They all came into the pit lane and retired. For Lawrence and Beresnay, it was for 10-second time penalties. Cleffenpot picks up a 3-second time penalty on cue. Declan Barrett was also, I think, for an issue that he had potentially front wing damage. Alekis was for a disconnect. Hoffman picks up a 3-second time penalty. That's his first of the race. And for Alvaro Caraton, unfortunately for him, he accidentally put the softs on when he came into the pits for this stint of intermediates.
Absolutely. 5 drivers out of this Grand Prix, and I've got to say, Jake Benham is doing very well considering his last outing in round 3, Saudi Arabia, when the rain came down and he went diving into the box for the pit stop for intermediates, ended up slipping and sliding, slamming into the pit wall. But now here he is, lap 50, and that was, I think it was only 14 laps into the Grand Prix, or around about 16 laps into the Grand Prix for Jake Benham. But here he is, lap 50, doing very, very well, looking at a podium position, keeping the charge on against Tom Roberts, but the weather is making it very difficult out there for drivers to get in sort of open door. Now, what I can say, yesterday I did a 100% Grand Prix in a league in Austria, and it was wet start to dry conditions, and The wet weather here in Austria is disgusting to say the least. You have absolutely zero grip, and the back end, you just slide through every corner you attack. So it's no surprise that the drivers here are struggling to see overtaking opportunities, are struggling to make open doors with the way that the cars just slip and slide through every single corner. That rain is not easing off yet, and we've still got 20 laps to go.
Yep, 20 laps to go now, and it's so difficult around the circuit like this. As there's Benham to the inside. That's a very late braking move. Can he pull that one off? Get the car slowed down. What a move from the McLaren, man. That is beautiful from Jake Benham to move up into third place there. What a lunge to the inside. Caught Tom Roberts napping. Roberts kept his guard down, thought Benham would have just sat behind him like he's done so much before, but Benham was like, no, I've had enough of seeing the back of that Ferrari. I want to move myself in front, and he's up into third place. But why it's so difficult around a circuit like this in these conditions, because a lot of these corners are off camber, so you're already fighting the traction in the dry, but in the wet, it just makes it 10 times worse. It is tenfold more difficult, and you can see just how much they really are just moving that rear axle around, especially on these dry setups. The rear axle just complaining as the cars get back on the power or just try and turn into the corner. And now we see Jack West with Brendan Lee. This is over 8th place in the race. And now for Brendan Lee, of course, West with that penalty will drop him down the order behind Jarno Otmir at the minute. But Brendan Lee is looking to attack on Diego Zorzo, who unfortunately for him, since we got to that intermediate stint, hasn't really had the pace that he's had on the dries.
No, it's really not. Brendan Lee certainly struggling out here. He's got Jack West breathing down his neck, but do not counter Joni Tormüller, who's had a beautiful run out of turn 1, round turn 2, and up towards turn 3. Looks for the outside line, does get it done before we hit the braking zone. Up into turn 3. Beautiful stuff from the Haas driver, who certainly unlocks some pace in that car as that rain starts to fall. He's looking to make moves and charge back up the field, so again in setup differences, Joni Tormüller seems to be set up for wet conditions.
Yes, he certainly is set up for these wet conditions. As we saw, he was struggling in the dries, but now we're here in those intermediates. He really is starting to make some moves and fly his way up through the order. So for Joni, he's now looking at Brendan Lee. It's a shame he's got so many time penalties. I think he's up to 12 seconds now for Joni Tormüller, so it's a very much a shame he's got all those, because he could be a real contender to at least get a top 5 potentially finish at the end of this one once we head back to the dry. So as we head through turn 9 and then into 10, Joni Tormüller now all over the back of Brendan Lee. Once more, there was a squabble on that previous lap between Benham and Roberts as well, but Benham, of course, still staying out on top. That get now 5 seconds between him and Luca Rapassa, and the Super Swede out in front, Leo Lund, 1.3 seconds clear of Rapassa as well. So as it currently stands, Lund taking that championship lead, and that is going to be oh so crucial. Even though it's this early in the season, it's a very crucial stage to be leading the championship.
Yeah, absolutely. Nobody else seems to be within any sort of striking distance, that only being a Tom Roberts, who's stuck very, very closely to the back of Jake Benham, since Benham did manage to get on through for that final podium spot. Still on board with Joni Tormüller, who's looking to put pressure on the X2-time eSports World Champion Brendan Lee. He's looking very, very quick here in the wet conditions, is Joni Tormüller, and certainly unlocks some pace, but he does have penalties looming over his head that will be added to his race time. Tom Roberts picks up 3 seconds there. Any chance he had at that podium has been thrown out the window, unless Jake costs himself a penalty as well. We'll jump on board with these two, who get themselves around turn 10 now, coming down the start-finish straight.
Oh, Tom Roberts has been doing so well in this race as well. It's been a very good drive, a very calm and collected drive from Tom Roberts, but unfortunately really has put any hopes to bed unless the top 3 pick up a penalty each. So for Brendan Lee, he's now all over the back of Diego Zorzo. He really has caught up to the back of that Williams over the course of the past lap or so. So is he going to be able to make that move up into turn 3? He's tucked into that slipstream, that nose behind the diffuser of the Williams. He's going to look to the inside line. He is. He's looking for it, but just not close enough. Under braking, taps the back of the Williams. Might get a good drive out of the corner now, as there was Zorzo going a little bit wide. It does give him a nice run though, Zorzo. He will have better momentum heading down the hill into the Swash Gold. And Brendan Lee now going to look to the inside, is he? No, just elects to back out of it, but Zorzo goes deep. This might open the opportunity. It opens the door for Lee through 5, but round the outside of 6, that will be very brave very opportunistic and very determined if Lee wants to pull that one off. He's gone for the up and under once again, but this time is it enough? He's to the inside through 7. He's surely got this one done. It's beautiful stuff from Brendan Lee. They're still side by side. Zorzo still just about hanging on for this position. The Williams man fighting tooth and nail for P7 on the road, and Brendan Lee has to back out through turn 9. Brilliant defensive moves there from the Spaniard.
Whoa, real action coming to your screen. Brendan Lee showing that he still has it, although he may have called his retirement. He's certainly a driver to watch out for. Still has it, even though he may be an old-timer. He's got the pace, doing it for the older generation of drivers, but he's still putting the pressure on Diego Zorzo. Looks for an outside line here. He's got the run, but switches back, pulls back in line. Zorzo defends that inside line. Brendan Lee's forced to go the long way around as he looks for it. Is Zorzo going to show him the hard shoulder? He's going to try to get the traction down, does Brendan Lee, and sticks it to that outside line. They're still side by side, neck and neck, as we go down in towards turn number 4. Brendan Lee falls back in line, looks for a longer, wider line around the outside, still can't make an open door come his way, switching it to the inside, still can't get the traction down to pull on through. He's doing everything in his power to get past to the inside of turn 6. Can he pull it off here as they go tooth and nail, fighting each other side by side through turn 7? Brendan Lee looking to pull off the traction, get the power down and still pull it off. But I've got to say, Zorzo's doing everything he can to fight off this charging Kick-Sauber, and Zorzo defending it like a lion, doing everything he can, but ultimately to no avail. Brendan Lee pulls on through after a monumental battle for 5 turns straight. But here comes Johnny Tormola. He's seen an open door and he's looking for it on Diego Zorzo and does slip on through going to turn 1.
Brendan Lee just kept getting doors slammed into his face by Diego Zorzo, and he finally was able to find one that remained open. He just pried that one open and then just sparged his way through it, not having any from Diego Zorzo. He's actually looking to the inside of Johnny Tormola. He's fighting back against the Haas driver. Is the Williams going to be able to fight back and potentially put those defensive moves into attacking moves? He's now with the slipstream behind the Haas driver. Is he going to be able to get the move done? But Jarno Otme is waiting in the rings, and he's gone to the inside of Diego Zorzo. No, to the outside of Diego Zorzo, but the inside for turn 6 as we head through turn 5. Now Zorzo sliding and squealing on the traction to try and get some bite from the rear axle, but Jarno Otme moves himself up into 9th place. It seems Brendan Lee got the door open, and everybody else now is just following him through. Zorzo has done everything he could, but unfortunately I think he's taken too much out of that tyre, fighting as hard as he did, and unfortunately for him, he's going to see himself fall further and further back. Next on the list is Jack West, followed by Duncan Hoffland, as Johnny Tormola picks up another 3-second time penalty. I really don't know how many he's got now. I have lost count on Yoni, so he needs to be, he certainly needs to reel in the track limits a little bit.
Yeah, certainly does. He needs to just take it a little bit more easier. But what I can say, Max, I don't know if you've noticed, but that rain has stopped falling. That track is looking a little bit more drier, and the drivers are going to start thinking about boxing for slicks. But at the moment, we could be hitting that crossover point because I'm not seeing any spray, any wet lines. That tarmac is looking fairly dry to me.
It certainly is. It's starting to get drier and drier. It's still greasy, as you can see from this shot here, that the track certainly still has some grease on it. But of course, now with the dirty air, the driver's running around the circuit. Julian Kleffenbach is trying to move on Jack West. He's actually fought his way back quite nicely, and he's actually missing his front nose cone, is Julian Kleffenbach. So I don't know what that Kick-Sauber is doing, but they are doing something right to have no nose cone and so much downforce on the car. But they're actually squabbling side by side through turn 7 and then through 8, but West able to hold on. But now, Luca Rapassa and Tom Roberts are into the pit lane. So are they thinking it is dry enough? And Kleffenbach is following them through. I was going to say that with these drivers following, like just driving around the circuit, causing that dry line to grate, with that rain now stopping, it's still a little bit greasy at points, but it certainly has dried up rapidly. Roberts into the pit lane for a set of the slicks, and Rapassa, he's come out just behind his teammate Jarno Otme. And Rapassa, I think, is on the medium compounded tyres. They will surely make it to the end of the race. And is Otme going to let through his teammate? It doesn't seem so thus far. And it actually seems that Rapassa is getting held up ever so slightly. So Otme not doing his teammate any world of good.
Alright, so we had a bit of a visual bug there for Julian Kleffenbach, who's completely missing his nose cone. It's not the first time I've seen this visual bug before, but be aware, he does have a front wing. It is just purely visual, he is still running at 100% functionality. He would not be able to keep up with these drivers without a front wing. So let's just say that that is just a visual bug. I've seen in the chat somebody call it out, what nose? You know, everybody's questioning what's going on there. It is just a visual bug. Nevertheless, we keep all eyes on the front of the grid as Istvan Pukki's challenging into the pits, trying to get past Ben Sabakonye, which could be crucial. Now, you can overtake in the pit lane, providing you stay within the white lines, and he's just hit the back end of Ben Sabakonye. They're looking not to force him into a pit lane infringement for speeding.
Yeah, very lucky there for Istvan Pukki to not get done for speeding there as Lund comes out onto the road once more. That gap has stayed exactly how it was. I think potentially that the likes of Rapassa and Roberts maybe came in one lap too soon. And now really is the time to strike. We'll have a total of 12 laps to go when we cross the line. Of course, count the one we are going to be on. And for Jack West now, he is all over the... for Duncan Hoffland, he's all over the back of Diego Zorzo. West now somewhat away from his teammates. These guys have just come out the pit lane from their next set of stops. And we now finally have DRS enabled. So slick running is certainly the way to go. And Joni Tormela is actually going to be the thorn in Luca Rapassa's side at the moment, because Tormela on those intermediates has decided to stay out a little bit longer. And that's going to hemorrhage, as you see, to the inside. Goes the Red Bull. That's going to cost him absolutely dearly. And that could be a crucial amount of time lost. And for Rapassa, Lund is slowly inching and edging away from the Red Bull man. And for Jake Benham, he's maybe getting a little bit closer.
Yeah, absolutely. Rapassa's trying very hard to chip some time out of Leo Lund's lead. Now, if anybody knows League Racing, you know Leo Lund, Luca Rapassa, two drivers that are prone to battle it out into the final closing lap. So can Rapassa close up to one of his rivals that has been known for the past few months? Leo Lund, Rapassa versus Lund once again, fighting it out. These two have come to blows across the sim racing world. But here we go for the win in the Ironman League. Rapassa needs to gain 2.7 seconds to bring the fight back to Leo Lund.
Yep, he certainly does. Rapassa with a lot of work on his hands, but it's not impossible. It can be done. Now we're on to that dry running surface. Lund, of course, needs this race victory as well if he wants to take the championship lead away from Otis Lawrence, who is, of course, retired from this race. Got a 10-second time penalty coming into the pit lane and had enough of it. He did not elect to continue. Unfortunately, his debut in Alpine did not go his way. So for Lund, this is a big opportunity to score some big points. And Rapassa picks up a 3-second time penalty. Jake Benham could now see an opportunity for second place open up. And for Luca Rapassa, he has just seen his race-winning hopes surely now gone down the drain. Lund can just keep this one on the road. Focus on keeping it on the black stuff. Don't overdrive the car. And for Rapassa, his hopes, his dreams, his aspirations of slowly clawing this gap back down has gone up in smoke, and that 3-second time penalty has put an end to potentially even a second place finish. As there's there is Jack West to the inside of Joni Tormela. A beautiful move there by West. He's actually also forced Tormela off the road, as I say. That is a beautiful move. So for Tormela, he's now under pressure from Diego Zorzo and looked at the outside line. There goes the Williams, but will Tormela be able to fight this one back? I think he will on the inside line, and Zorzo has to just sit behind, and Tormela lives another day in 11th place with his 15 seconds of time penalties. But for Luca Rapassa, it is sheer disaster, and second place might now go a-begging.
Absolutely. Rapassa was closing that gap down. Was 3 seconds, now 2.3. Still has a 3-second penalty looming over his head, but with the way the time's dropping, he's not gaining a second per lap, which is what he would need if he wants to hope to bridge a 3-second gap over Leo Lund. He needs to gain a massive amount of time. I'll pray that Leo Lund has a disaster moment, some form of squabble, spin, absolute disaster moment that could push Leo Lund away from another victory this season in Ironman.
Yeah, it certainly could. He needs something to happen to Lund if he wants any chance of winning this race, and also to Benham really as well, because of course Benham is now starting to get closer and closer. He's seen that opportunity open up for second. I don't think he wants to miss it. So for Jarno Opmeer, he's now under the putting pressure onto the back of Brendan Lee, two esports world champions, going to be going at it tooth and nail. Hammer and Tong over 7th and 8th respectively. Otmir on the mediums. I think Lee is also on the medium compound of tyres. Rapassa now puts in the fastest lap of the race, instantly beaten by Jake Benham. Benham's got the bit between his teeth. He is looking to bring that gap down, but Benham now picks up a 3-second time penalty. So we're saying Benham could potentially snatch away second place. He has just lost it at the final hurdle as well. And for Jake Benham, he was driving so well. He had the bit between his teeth. He was pushing that car to its limits as Tormina picks up another 3-second time penalty. He unfortunately it's come to an end as Otmir gets past Lee, Konyi gets past Pookie, and Otmir now up into 7th place. And for Jake Benham, oh, that second place has just now been snatched out of his hands.
Yeah, those three from P2 to P4, if they can catch each other, will be fighting for position. But Jake Benham's got 3 seconds to gain if he even wants to get in that fight. Tom Roberts, 4.5 seconds to gain and only 8 laps of running to go.
Yep, only 8 laps to go. Penalties could be a big part of this one. We can't count out Konyi either. He could potentially get past Roberts up for that 4th place. So him and Pookie could do some really nice teamwork and potentially see themselves onto the back of the Scuderia Ferrari and get 4th and 5th respectively and demote the Ferrari all the way down to 6th. You can see a fast lap there for Konyi, instantly beaten by Jarno Otmir, the first driver into the 1 minute 4.9. So Otmir really flying at the moment. He's got 4.1 seconds to gain over the next few laps. As there you see, it's Van Pookie to the outside line on Sabo Konyi, and he's able to move himself up into 5th place nicely. A nice DRS move, but they're probably going to be swapping themselves around like we saw Konyi do with Zorzo, with Benham, and now he's doing it with It's Van Pookie to try and get within that 3 seconds of Tom Roberts in front. Out in front though for Leo Lund at the moment is all going swimmingly. Even though Rapace is gaining on him, it will not matter much because he has a 6-second net advantage. A 5-second net advantage, over Luca Rapassa. And for Leo Lund, he really is just going to be loving life out in front of the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Under no threat whatsoever. The Scarlet Red Ferraris have looked powerful all the way through this Austria Grand Prix, where you managed to get on board on the track after a technical glitch from lap 7 onwards, and it was Tom Roberts leading the way by quite a margin, and Leo Lund has managed to catch his way back up, get past his teammate, and bridge a comfortable gap that is ever closing down by Luca Rapassa. So Luca Rapassa now has a tremendous job on his hands. If he can get in that DRS zone, he needs to put the pressure on Leo Lund, force his rival into a mistake, and hope that Leo Lund locks up, goes deep, runs off the track, and picks up that infamous 3-second time penalty as Ben Sabakonye slips on through his Van Pookie once again. They keep exchanging DRS, trying to gain time on the rivals ahead of them.
They certainly do, and look at that. They're now within that 3 seconds of Tom Roberts. So the Scarlet Red Ferrari's day might just go from bad to worse just yet. Roberts now potentially going to be finishing in 6th place if Konyi and Pookie can keep up this rate of catching. They could potentially even overtake him on track if they keep up this pace. And now you can see that gap just fluctuating over to 3 seconds. It'll then come back down to 2.9 seconds. Once again, Jarno Otmir getting closer and closer to the 2 in front of him. It's really getting close now. That gap up at the front as well, 1.9 seconds at this stage of the race. Hoffman now going to be putting Brendan Lee under some pressure with some DRS now open. Pookie gets by, of course, with that routine switch. And here comes Hoffman once again, DRS open. It's just too powerful to defend against if you haven't got the DRS. So for Brendan Lee, he's just sitting down the straight. Yeah,
he certainly was. Duncan Hoffman made that move nice and easy, and I don't think Brendan's close enough to try and pull back some sort of switcheroo going down in towards turn number 4. No, Duncan Hoffman maintaining that lead and has actually maintained a couple of tenths gap over Brendan Lee. Brendan Lee maybe recharging the battery there, getting himself ready for the final 5 laps as we get going on lap 66 of 71. Just 5 laps to go. Leo Lund looking very comfortable out in front. That gap with Luca Rapassa was dropping, but he's still managing it about 2 seconds gap. Leo Lund doing everything he can to keep Rapassa outside of the DRS by just a second's breathing space. That's what you want, Max. I've got to say, that to me is comfortable. If you can hold a driver 2 seconds behind, you know you've got a second to play with before they even have a sniff of DRS.
Yep, exactly what Lund needs to do. Of course, as we already said, he's got a 5-second delta, and it's Van Pookie, crucially for him, has picked up a 3-second time penalty as well. So the only driver that could potentially gain off Roberts' penalty is going to be Konyi, and potentially Otmir, if he's able to gain at the current rate of knots he is. That's gapped down by another second over the course of about a lap and a half. So that Dutchman is really starting to put his foot down. But yeah, for Lund, I mean, he's got that 5-second advantage, as we already said, but keeping Rapasa at bay, I think Rapasa's made a mistake somewhere, so that gap's gone up to 2.7, but keeping Rapasa at bay around about that 2-second mark, it just gives you so much more confidence in the car, and it means that you can't be involved in a squabble that could potentially then pick you up a penalty when it comes to the end of the race. So for Lund, he's doing exactly what he needs to, a commanding, calm, nice drive out the front, and look at that, Rapasa, another 3-second time penalty. The second place got snatched away from him. He got it back into his hands, and he just let it go again. It's been snatched back into Jake Benham's favour, and if Benham's able to keep his nose clean this time around, he'll get that second place away from Luca Rapasa, and that is all battles for the lead well and truly over, because the opportunity of Lund potentially getting a penalty was looming when Rapasa had 3 seconds, but now it's up to 6. No chance that Lund is going to lose this one now with 3 laps to go when we cross the line with It's Van Pookie getting past Konyi, and also I think that's Lee versus West heading into the Swash Gold now, and it seems that Brendan Lee is just holding on for now down in 9th, but Jack West fighting this one back. He's just been able to get that move done on Brendan Lee, but of course we'll get these places back anyway thanks to the time penalties.
Yeah, absolutely. Jake Benham, he can't afford to lose half a second here. He needs to stay exactly where he is with half a second breathing space. He's on 3 seconds. Rapasa's on 6 with a 2.5 second gap. So currently, he has half a second to play with. Tom Roberts as well, if he can just close down a little bit. I don't know if it's to come though. 2 laps to go. Drivers have got to absolutely send it round this circuit, being one of the fastest circuits on the calendar. Lap times a minute 5 seconds under perfect conditions. You've just nowhere to gain that time. You've got 10 turns to navigate. It's hard to pull back 10s here in Austria. But with the DRS, it does become a little bit easier. Yanni Tormola making a move on Duncan Hoffland there. Easy done with the DRS. Julian Kaffenbach trying to separate those Aston Martins, get himself into a bit of a sandwich, and does so with ease for P10. Brendan Lee also behind, trying to help along his Kicksauber teammate. Can he get past Jack West? Not as much yet.
Yep, still, of course. But when Lund crosses the line in the moment, 2 laps to go. And for Leo Lund, it's been a brilliant drive for him. And yeah, for Brendan Lee, I think in these squabbles, he knows he'll get the penalty, the places back thanks to penalties anyway. So what he is pretty much doing is just pretty much allowing the drivers through. He doesn't want to be involved in any squabbles that might see him off the road, that might potentially maybe make him push that little bit too hard, where he just slides that little bit over the white line. So if he just stays as he is, he'll be fine with the track limits and potentially pick up a P8 finish. Jarno Otmir's got within 2 seconds, well 3 seconds should I say, of It's Van Pookie, so a 6th place finish is certainly on the cards for him. And then for Konyi as well, he's just within that 3-second gap to Tom Roberts. So as we enter lap 70 of 71, Leo Lund is still leading the way.
Yeah, absolutely. He's getting himself going now in towards Sector 2, coming around turn 6 now. The double left-handers is Leo London. Very comfortable, has managed to gain time over Rapasa. What was breaking into a 2-second gap is now a 3.5 second gap. And there we see Duncan Hoffland dive on through with the DRS into turn number 4, around turn 5. On Yanni Tormola. Yanni Tormola just looking behind him. He's got quite a few penalties above his name. He's just running damage limitation at this point, trying to maintain position. Not battling too hard, but if there is an open door, damn right he'll take it. Leo Lund now starting the final lap of the race under no threat whatsoever from behind, and he's looking to go on to win once again. He won in round 2. He'll win in round 4. All going well, but it's not over yet until he crosses that finish line. 2 victories in the Ironman and will take the lead of the drivers' standings by 8 points over Otis Lawrence, who retired very early on his Alpine debut. Just struggling out here in Austria. Really struggling.
Certainly has been, and Leo Lund only has a few more corners to go as we quickly switch over to Konyi versus Pookie. This is for 5th and 6th, and Konyi's going to be within position for that position off Tom Roberts. So he's going to finish in 4th. But for Leo Lund, it has been a very commanding drive. When Otis Lawrence has faltered, Lund has picked up the pieces. We're going to see our first double winner here this season. He loves the even numbers, it seems. The Super Swede is back on top here in Austria. And it's Leo Lund who wins from, it will be Jake Benham in 2nd, followed by Luca Rapassa in 3rd. Leo Lund takes the lead of the championship. A really brilliant drive from the Scuderia Ferrari man. He prances to the top of the standings. Duncan Lofton with a 3-second near the end. It's Otmir in 6th, Conyi 4th, Roberts 5th, Otmir 6th, Pookie 7th, Lee 8th, Hughes 9th from out of nowhere. Diego Zorzo gets your final points paying position. And then I think it was Kleffenbach, Hoffland, West, Tormula who rounded out your finishers. But here, Corey, when Lawrence falters, Lund picks up the pieces.
Absolutely. Otis Lawrence, your championship leader, has been jumped officially, with Leo Lund taking his 2nd victory of the season, your first double victor here in Ironman League. And what a race this has been. The mixing conditions, it started off, the first 7 laps we missed, but from there, boxing onto the dry tyres, some drivers showing those setup differences, struggling in the wet versus being faster in the dry, and vice versa. Jarno Opmeer taking 3 of your 5 attributes. Fastest lap driver of the day, most overtakes, race winner, of course, Leo Lund. And cleanest driver, says the game, is Ben Sabaconye. But there is your podium finishers. Leo Lund, Jake Benham, Luca Rapassa, Ben Sabaconye, Tom Roberts, Jarno Opmeer, Istvan Pukit, Brendan Lee, Wilson Hughes, and Diego Zorzo doing your top 10. We shall take a quick little couple of minutes to have a quick little chat and see if we can get anybody into the interview room and go from there. What a race, Max. I've got to say, you've been here for the full 71 laps. How's your take on that one?
Yeah, it was a brilliant race, to be fair. It had it all. It had battles. Of course, it had the rain anyway, but it had the battles, it had the strategy, and it also did dive into a little bit of an ending where it was kind of anticlimactic, to be fair, near the end, but still, it was Leo Lund who got the job done. He kept it clean. He kept it on the black stuff. That's exactly what he needed to do. And for Luca Rapassa, he faltered at the final hurdle. From 8th on the grid, and he nearly stared at the fact of a 2nd place, but unfortunately, an extra 3-second time penalty sent him away. If anything, I would give massive props to Jake Benham, because at one point he looked very down and out for at least a top 3 finish, you would have said, around about lap 25, when he was about 5-6 seconds off the back off Tom Roberts, and in that train with Conyi, Pookie, Zorzo, down at the back of that, he fought his way through, and he fought his way within 3 seconds of Rapassa to get that 2nd place. So overall, I think there for Jake Benham, a real standout drive from him as well.
Yeah, absolutely. A much better drive than last time out in Saudi Arabia that saw him end himself in the pit lane, going down to start off what would have been the wet stint there. You don't normally see it rain in Jeddah, but it certainly rained last time out in round 3, as you expect wet weather to always come in the Ironman League. But as we sit patiently awaiting, if any driver would like to come and have a quick little word about how their race has gone down. Leo Lund, first double victor, looking very, very quick, very racy. Indeed, could be a potential favourite for the championship here in Ironman League. Just pure consistency. Started in P10 after we do the reverse championship grid format, and managing to convert that into a victory. Tom Roberts looked very, very good to help his Scarlet Ferrari teammate to the victory, but ultimately falling short in the end. And again, Otis Lawrence needs to come back in round 5, if not round 6, score back some points that he's going to need. However, it is still very, very close. 50 points for Lawrence, 58 for Leo Lund as it stands. I don't know if Rapassa, I think Rapassa would potentially 18 on to 28. Did he get P2 or P3? It was P3, wasn't it, Rapassa?
P3.
So it's 15 for Rapassa, putting Rapassa onto 43 points. So not enough to catch up to Otis Lawrence, but maintains that P3 in the driver's standings. This is all unofficially at the moment. This is until stewarding is done and dusted. You've also got to take all that into account after race incidents that get reviewed by the stewarding team. So provisionally, it is Leo Lund, 58 points, Otis Lawrence on 50, and Luca Rapassa on 43, doing the top 3 in your driver's standings. I don't think we're getting anybody in for an interview. I'm not seeing anybody waiting around, so we will call it quits here, done and dusted. Max, thank you for joining me, although we had our brief little technical issues off the start. It's been a fantastic 71 laps of the Red Bull Ring.
It certainly has. I've very much enjoyed my time here. I hope to be back potentially in the future. But yeah, thank you for having me in the commentary box, Corey. It's been a real pleasure. And yeah, thank you to everyone watching at home as well for just supporting us and allowing this stuff to happen. So yeah, thank you all. And yeah, that's going to be it from me. And enjoy the rest of the season.
You may have heard out as well last week that sign-ups are open in WOR, so get yourself signed up if you are interested in racing in the provisional tiers. But that is all from us, and we shall see you next week for another round of the Ironman League, and then you shall wait to hear announcements of the WOR tiers to start. Well, that is all. We shall see you next week, same time, same place. Do not miss it for round 5 of the Ironman.